So I can plug in the Bluetooth adapter. For example, if I go into seat adjustment, adjust the forward and back position, so many different features. I think there's 50 plus features. This is the beauty, is that it has a topological view. What is topological? It simply means, think of it like a family tree. History there before you start clearing codes. So if I press F3, if you look at the locks there you go. And likewise, if I go forwards, what do you want a diagnostic tool for? What cars have you got? And how proficient are you with using diagnostic tools for cars and vehicles? These are the sorts of questions that you need to ask yourself before jumping into buying and spending a lot of money and investing on a diagnostic tool. And two of my favorites I've got right here. We've got the Kingbolen K10 Pro, all singing, all dancing, 10-inch screen, it does it all. But we've also got the Launch X431 Pro Elite, all singing, all dancing, it does it all. 8-inch screen, slightly smaller. But the key differences between the two is at the price. On the Launch X431 Pro Elite, getting straight into it, it's around about £460 that I last looked on Amazon. The Kingbolen K10 Pro is double that. So you think to yourself, would you spend double the amount of money on a device that perhaps you're maybe only going to use once or twice a year? Probably not. However, if you're a garage, or you've got many cars, or you're just a really keen enthusiast in cars and you want to dive deep into the menu system in your vehicle and understand what is wrong, then perhaps the K10 Pro by Kingbolen is the one for you. So I'm going to go through the pros and cons of both of these. I've had these now for well over a year and I use them every other day. They are incredible bits of kit for what they are. But I'm going to try and help you decide whether you should buy one or the other. So straight away, looking at the interface, let's forget about the functions at the moment and let's see what you get. You've got a 10-inch screen on the Kingbolen K10 Pro and you've got an 8-inch on the Launch. You can see that the menu systems look kind of fairly similar. They've both got that tile setup and you're simply clicking on the most relevant menu. For example, you've got a big fat diagnostic button here, but then you think to yourself, well, what's intelligent diagnosis? And as you start to use it, you'll start to learn what they are. On the Launch X431 Pro Elite, we've got an intelligent diagnostic and a local diagnostic, very, very similar to each other, and they are set out in a similar fashion. So the good news is if you use one and you want to perhaps upgrade to the next one, then the menus are going to be fairly similar and you're going to have that familiarity between the two. Both have a handy little stand on the back and you think to yourself, oh, whoopee-doo, what's the point of this stand? Well, when you're working on the bench, it really does make a difference. Also, it's ideal when you want to hang it on the back of the steering wheel as well. They both have that, so there's no difference there. But if you look here on the Kingbolen, there's a lovely little Bluetooth adapter which has a magnet on the back so you don't go losing it. For the Launch X431 Pro Elite, there is a Bluetooth version, but it costs you a fair bit more. Instead, what they do is they give you a cable to plug in. This goes into the OBD2 in your car, that then goes into the back of your diagnostic tool. So straight away you think to yourself, right, we've got more convenience and flexibility. We've got a Bluetooth setup where you're completely hands-free. You can walk away from the car. You can actually probably go a good few meters before it disconnects, which is handy, especially if the car is next to your garage. You can then go in the garage if it's raining or something, and you can diagnose the car from the warmth and comfort and the dryness of your garage. For this, you're going to have to sit in the car because you only get a meter length of cable. Is that such a hardship? You could say no. But that depends on the individual and whether that really bothers you or not. So what I'm going to do for you now, I'm just going to show you what you get in the box. I'm not going to talk about it too much because it's far easier when I'm actually showing it to you and you can see it. So I'm going to get a live demonstration on one of the cards and then I'll give you my little recommendation on which one I would go for. So let's open up these boxes here and you can see what you get when you buy these. Lovely little carry case, both exactly the same type of setup, nice and robust. They're going to take a few knocks and things around your workshop. X431 Pro Elite, Kingbolen K10 Pro. Kingbolen K10 Pro has the dongle on the back, importantly, and it comes with Ethernet cable because you can plug it straight in. It also has USB-C It also gives you this splitter here. So this will then go into the car's OBD2. You've got your Ethernet cable connection here, and then that there is where the OBD Bluetooth adapter will then click into it there. So you've still got your hands-free ability, but you can then connect that to the internet if you have a wired connection, or failing that, they both have wireless internet and Bluetooth ability as well. Looking at the X431 Pro, as I showed you, cable sits in the back here. That then connects straight into this OBD2 port there, and that then goes into the car. It has wireless, but it doesn't have an Ethernet ability. You've got a USB standard and a USB-C, and importantly, in both of these, make sure that you don't go losing any of the paperwork, because there's serial number and activation codes in there which you need to log on to get these to be activated. They both have a 2-year warranty or free updates as well. That's what you get in the box. Let's get them on the car. Enough talk, let's go and have a look what they can actually do in real life. All right, so I'm going to start with the K10 Pro because it's the bigger one of the two. And if you can see what this thing can do, then it will give you a good sort of heads up for how that would compare with the X431 Pro Elite. Here's the stand. As I mentioned, you can just pop that on the top of the steering wheel. Now you get an idea of just how useful that is. And with the fact that this is Bluetooth, it means that I just take the dongle off the back. There's no cables to plug in. I plug this down into my OBD port and I'm ready to go. And if I wanted to, I can then step away from the vehicle. I can work out on the bench because it's going to connect. So I can plug in the Bluetooth adapter. Now all cars, there's a standard where the OBD port, OBD2 port, has to be within a meter from where the driver sits. Now you may find it's behind a panel. Look at that, I've done this so many times, I know you need to look. So you might need to remove a panel, etc. A little bit of tip, you've probably just heard a beep there. Make sure you push it all the way home. I've had it before where I haven't quite pushed it in properly and it doesn't get a communication with your diagnostic tool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the car, just because I've been playing around with the radio and this car has 2 batteries, an auxiliary battery in the boot for the stereo and everything else, and one to start the car on the front. And my auxiliary battery is a little bit low, so let's start the car. You can do that, that's fine. Diagnostic tool will still work with the engine running. Otherwise, what you need to do is turn the key so that all the lights are on the dash, but you don't have to start the car. So the lovely thing about the Kingbolen K10 is that I can record the screen, and it makes it so much easier when I'm making this video because you're going to see it nice and clearly. So starting from the main screen here, this is what I mentioned just before when I was doing the quick overview. You've got diagnosis at the top and intelligent diagnosis. If I go into diagnosis, you can see that it brings up all of the cars. Now there's 10,000 different types of cars that this Kingbolen can talk to, and that's pretty much every single car on the planet. And you're going to be there all day going through all of this, and there's going to be cars that you've never seen before. I mean, look at the top of the list there. You got Aeon, not sure, but then you got Abarth, which is Fiat. You got Acura, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, and of course one of the biggest ones there is BYD from China, and these are going to become more and more prevalent in the years to come. So what you want to do, instead of searching and scrolling through it, just simply type in the name of the car. I'm sitting in my Mercedes today. Then you press vehicle coverage at the bottom, and now you're going to go and choose the car manually. This is a Mercedes SL, so it's starting off with A class. You've got the tab down options at the top there, so I can go and find SL, there it is there, SL class, and then you choose the year and the engine size, etc, etc. But an easier, more automated way of doing it, if I go back to the main screen and I press intelligent diagnosis, now watch what happens. It automatically connects to the Bluetooth adapter that's in there, and it's now going to find the VIN number, and it does it all automatically. This by far is my favorite. Most of the diagnostic tools have it. Some are faster and slower than others, but this is now going to find my car. And it's found it, and I know it's right because the 230 is an R230, it's a chassis number. The 467 that just popped up there, that is the engine code. It's going to go and ask you now a couple of questions on the year of your vehicle. So this is a 2004, so it's this one here, 2003 to 2008. You confirm that the details are correct. The ignition is on. This is the beauty, and this is one of the key differences that the Kingbolen has over the launch X431 Pro Elite, is that it has a topological view. What is topological? It simply means, think of it like a family tree, and it will show you all the areas and then it will show you all of the individual components, the computers, the ECUs for each of those areas. So look at the top of the screen there, you've got audio, and within the audio you have the CDC, CD auto changer, AGW, audio gateway, Navi is your DVD navigation, which for me is in the boot. Likewise, if I go down to chassis, I've got ABS, the speed sensors, I've got TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system, etc. So all of these computers are linked into that chassis box there, and if I wanted to just do the chassis, I can select just that, and it will then scan all of those computers, all of the diagnostics in that area. Likewise, if I didn't want to go and do absolutely every single one, I can just uncheck the ones that I want and then perhaps just do those top 4. So that's a nice little touch. It saves a bit of time, because to do a full scan can take up to about 8 minutes, and that's the same with all diagnostic tools. It's not just the Kingbolen, the Launch X431 Pro Elite will also be roughly the same. So let's do a smart scan here. So if I go back and go right to the top of the tree, which is OBD2, you can see that everything now has come up. And if I scroll down, you can see the whole suite of all the different areas on the car that this Kingbolen is going to talk to. And I must admit, I love it for this reason, because it's a little bit of an unknown. When it scans, you don't quite know which control unit is being scanned, and then the next one, and then the next one. Well, this is actually going to show you as it runs through it. So I'm not going to talk anymore. Let's just press Smart Scan, and you'll see what I'm saying. There you go. So straight away it's gone with the power, TCMN, and then it's going to the ESM. On the top of the page, you can see it says in green, normal, abnormal, scanned, and scanning. So as it's scanning, the DTR is grey, and that means that if you look at the top of the list, it's not equipped. So I don't have the distant control. It's a radar on the front of the car which monitors your speed on motorways. So it's going to scan everything that's being found on the car that this unit can talk to, that my car has got installed, is going to go green. Anything where there's an issue, where there's a fault, we're going to go abnormal, which is red. And then the blue, it just means that it's been scanned. So I'll see you in about 8 minutes. I'll let it do its thing. You can see straight away, I've got 6 faults on my ECM. I've got 4 faults on my ESP. And my SBC, which is sensor timing brake control, I've got 2 faults. So there you go. There's always going to be faults. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You'll find as it's going through the diagnostic that you'll get things like diagnosis just pop up on your screen there. You might find that your ABS light comes on your dashboard. Don't worry too much about that. It's because it's in its individual control module, and it will just come up on the dashboard momentarily. So I'm going to see you in about 8 minutes once it's done its full scan, and then we'll have a look at all the faults. So I've come to the end of my scan, and as you can see from the system topology there, all the ones in red, they're the ones I got fault with. All the ones in grey, they're the ones that aren't actually fitted on this vehicle, and all the ones in green are the ones that are all good. Then you go to the system list, and you can see that there, all the faults go to the top of the page, and then you can work your way through it. Remember, the whole point of a diagnostic tool is to give you an understanding of where to look. Don't just think of it as this is going to wipe the code away and the problem goes away. This car I know is due for a service. In fact, hopefully I'm going to do that this weekend. But when you've got an issue with the car, and it could be an oxygen sensor, or it could be a spark plug, etc., that fault, until you fix it physically, is always going to keep coming up on the diagnostic tool. You also get a lot of issues when the battery goes low with low voltage, which you might be able to clear because it's only a temporary fault. So just use this as a little bit of an investigation of what area of the car that you need to start looking in, because it's not always going to exactly tell you 100% what it is. And that's not a fault of Kingbolen, that's just in general how you have your mindset to work with diagnostic tools. Right, let's go into the first one, engine control module. I've got 6 faults, so you press enter, or you can press the tab down button. If I press tab down, it gives me an overview. So you can actually do a whole report on this before you start clearing codes as well. So if you're in a garage and you want to give this to the customer, you can show exactly what you found, charge the customer accordingly for doing the diagnostic scan, and then you can say to them, look, these are the faults. For example, we've got a left O2 sensor. Before the CAT, we've got a short circuit signal, and we've got aging sensor there as well. Now I've actually just changed this O2 sensor, yet it's still coming up. So I'm going to try and clear this code and then see what happens. So if I wanted to press a report before I go any further, Press the little button at the bottom. You can put in all the details just as if you're a professional garage. Press OK. Put in the mileage. For me, it's what, 180,000, something like that. And it's in miles. You can put the address and the phone number, and now it's going to make a lovely little PDF report, which you can then send over to your customer in detail. It's got all of the faults, it's got descriptions of all of those faults, and you've then got that history there before you start clearing codes. You can then email it because it's got Wi-Fi ability, obviously if you're connected to the internet. You can press share, and this is where you can email it, or the person might have a Bluetooth connection. I can Bluetooth it as well. You've got options of PDF, XMSL, CSV, comma separated vector, or your HTML. It's all there. These are all my faults. If I go into the first one, for example, it's going to bring up the internet and it will tell me what it thinks this particular fault is. There we go, AI's come in. It actually tells me the Mercedes-Benz diagnostic trouble code DTC P282-008 associated with the left oxygen sensor. And it even gives you a little image there. If I click on that, let's have a look. There you go, this is all from the internet, and it actually gives you a little image as well. There's plenty of websites that you can get this information, but today we want to go and clear the code. So let's go back and we're going to hit clear DTCs. Follow what it says, switch off ignition, wait 10 seconds, back on again. And now you can see that those codes are now being cleared and you move on to the next one, etc. If I go into SBC, Sensonic Brake Control, let's go into individually. Switch on ignition, okay. And here we're going to go into the individual unit, which is for that particular module. So module information, if you want to know the part number, it's going to tell you, so you haven't got to go taking out panels on your car. You want to get a replacement part, you can go and get that. Here we got a Bosch item. You can take that replacement part, then when you go to change it on the vehicle, you can copy the code from the old unit and put it onto your donor part, and that's all capable through the Kingbolen. Read data stream, let's go into that. RPM sensor, left front speed sensor, right front speed sensor, so let's select those. Let's press OK, and I'm not moving at the moment, but if I was to move slowly, you'll see the graph then will start to go up. So if I go backwards, you can see there that it's starting to climb. Likewise, if I go forwards, there we go. So that's giving you live indication of what your speed sensors are doing. If you wanted to graph it, you've also got that option there as well. Now I'm not moving there, so again, if I go backwards, there you go. And likewise, if I go forwards, so that gives you a live indication, and you've got your speeds there as well. I'm going to go and clear the fault codes now. So you press clear fault codes. Are you sure you want to clear the fault codes? Yes. It's going to tell me to switch off the engine probably for 10 seconds. Fault memory is clearing, back on again. Fault memory has been cleared. Now what I like to do is go and check to see if that code is there. So let's go and read the fault code. There you go, no fault codes found. And that's now cleared, and you can work your way through, and I recommend you doing that. Go into each code as it is, rather than clearing the lot. And you can then get an idea of exactly what issues you have, rather than just wiping it clean. But if you've had a low battery, for example, then you may have many codes. So sometimes it can be beneficial by pressing clear DTCs to clear the lot. So you can see that my SBC now, that's dropped off the list. If I move down to the greens at the bottom here with the green ticks, you should see, there we go, SBC, I've now got a green tick, no issues now, we are all good. Let's go into the pneumatic system. This time, I'm going to show you what you can do with the actuation test. So if I go into that, you've got unlock trunk lid, I can do that. Open or close central locking, well, let's do that one so it's easy to see. So if you look at the central locking, it's open at the moment. And as I press open or close central locking, it says F3 to lock, F4 to lock with the vacuum. So if I press F3, if you look at the locks there you go, they lock down, press F4, and there you go. So there's an actuation test. So where that's handy is, let's just say you don't know whether there's an issue with your PSE pump, whether there's an issue with the actual actuator on the door, whether there's an issue with the touch sensor on the door or the outside door handle. So for example, if I press that actuation test and they all went down with the exception of that one, then I know that that's where the fault is. And here, this is where it's given me an option that if I had a new unit, a new PSE pump, and I want to copy the coding from it to the new one I bought, I can do that and press yes, and it will copy it over. Here's a good one for you. So on the Mercedes, you can actually have it so that when you unlock the car, it only opens the driver's door. And that's a nice little security feature, so that somebody doesn't jump in the passenger side, only the driver's door opens. Let's have a look at the one on the bottom there. It says vehicle speed signal threshold for automatic locking. So that's as you're driving along and the car then locks its doors. Now, you've got here 5 kilometers an hour, 10 kilometers an hour. You can actually change that. So let's say you're doing short journeys and you don't want the door to lock. Can't think why, but or maybe you want the door to lock as soon as you move. Well, you can change that here by pressing one of these options. F3, 5 kilometers an hour, F4, F5, 15 kilometers an hour. So at the moment I've got 15 kilometers an hour, and that is where my doors lock. But if I want to do it 10 kilometers an hour, I can do that as well. So I press F4. The coding transferred to the unit, yes. Coding has been carried out. Now I'll go back into it. There we go. You can see at the top of the page, vehicle speed signal threshold for an automatic locking. Now it's going to lock when I get to 10 kilometers an hour, or around about 8 miles an hour. So there's a little bi-directional example. I've now changed that threshold of when it's going to automatically lock the doors. Having a quick look at the special functions here. When I go into special functions, look at all these things that you can do. Reset service, brake pad reset, bleed system. This is where it's going to automatically drain your brake fluid oil. So that's one man, you can do it all in one go. You've got EGR, steering angle sensor, confirmation of battery change. Now this is important. So if you go into if you buy a new battery, you're supposed to tell the car that you've got a new battery so it doesn't put as much voltage into it, because new batteries won't need as much current. Older batteries, you tend to need a little bit more charge, and it prolongs the life of your battery, and you can do that using your Kingbolen. For example, if I go into seat adjustment here, it allows you to adjust the forward and back position. If I go into the front seat, so here if I go into the easy entry on the driver's seat, just watch it because it's warning me that I'm sitting in the seat, so you need to make sure that you're aware of that, because otherwise it will squash you. So here I'm not going to do it because I'm sitting in the car, but I can change the distance of travel. I can also change, like for example, the minimum distance of travel, and adjust the beginning of rearward range. And if I go into those, and let's just say it's not actually going back quite far enough on your easy entry, well, you can do that through your Kingbolen. So there's a quick overview of a diagnostic. I'm going to go quickly back to the main screen here. Let's have a quick look at maintenance. Here we've got so many different features. I think there's 50 plus features. You can see there, starting at the top, you've got AC system relearn, AdBlue reset, adaptive front lighting system, airbag resets. You've got anti-theft key matching. So you can actually program keys with this unit. Now it's going to vary slightly between different models of car, but nevertheless you still can program your keys. That's pretty impressive. And depending on the car, these resets are going to be slightly more applicable or less applicable. Don't think that you're going to have 50 plus resets on every single car you've got, because Mercedes perhaps is a bit more complex than, say, a little Fiat that I've got. But nevertheless, look at all these things that it can do. So that's maintenance. You've got module. If I go into module here, you've got additional auxiliaries you can add into the Kingbolen. A printer, a video scope, an oscilloscope. You've got Bluetooth battery clips and your tire pressure monitoring system. These are additional features that you can get. By the way, also, there's a camera on the back of this as well. So you can take images, and then you've got that. So there's a problem in the engine, you can take a photo of it and you can store that and send that as part of the report to the customer. You've got remote assistance, where once you're online, you can actually show them your screen and what the issues are, and remotely they'll help you and guide you through what to do. So there we go. I really have just touched the surface, and I don't want to make the video too long. So I'm going to get the Launch X431 Pro Elite out now and have a little go at that. I'll look at the same types of menus, and then we'll have a little overview, and I'll tell you which one I would go for. So Launch X431 Pro Elite, let's have a little go at this. Again, it's got a stand, sits on top of the steering wheel, just like the Kingbolen did. Exception is that we don't have a Bluetooth dongle. It's not much of a hardship, but you have to plug it in with a cable. One of the benefits, though, of the fact that you've got a cable plugged in is it also charges up the unit as well. That's something that you don't get with a Kingbolen. So there's a little bonus. But then it's going to be that way if you have any Bluetooth adapter like that. They got really good batteries in these. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Right, and you can see, look, I've got a little charging light just flashed up there, and that's because, here we go, it's charging it, which is handy because actually I've got a low battery on this. So I'm going to start the car. This, just whilst looking at the rear and the hardware side of it, has also got a camera, and you can also put auxiliaries on this as well. So this is the main menu of the X431 Pro Elite. And likewise, if I go into local diagnose or intelligent diagnose, as I did with the Kingbolen K10, let's see what the differences are. Yep, just like the Kingbolen, you've now got to choose your car manually, and you work your way through. At the top right hand side, you've also got ability to search, which is good. But as a nice little touch, it's actually put all the countries along the top there. But for me, I would just type in there Mercedes, and I'd go European, and there it is, Mercedes-Benz. So one of the things I've noticed about the X431 Pro Elite is both have activation codes and both you have to put serial numbers in. But it seems that I have to make sure that I'm online when I do this. I don't have that with the Kingbolen. Not sure why, but I've got my Wi-Fi connected here, so I'm just going to make sure I connect up to that. So I'm connected to the internet and away I go. And it seems to have to do that handshake. That's something actually that would put me off because you haven't always got access to the internet, especially if you haven't got Wi-Fi nearby on the house, or you haven't got it on your phone to hotspot, etc. Anyway, we're into it here. Here's automatic search and manual search. It's going to ask me to put in the car manually, the year, the age, the model, the engine number, etc. But I'm going to go for automatic. And just like the Kingbolen, it then found the VIN straight away, which is great. And now it's going to read the mileage. And I think I've got 180,000 plus miles on this car, and she's still going strong. It's the middle one for me, it's 2004. And this is where the launch is slightly different to the Kingbolen. You've got 3 reports. A health report is going to find all the faults on the car, all the control units that it can find that are installed on the vehicle, and then it will give you the option to be able to clear those faults. You can also do a report, just like the Kingbolen. You can put a PDF report, etc. System scan is going to find all the control units on the car only, and system selection is where if you've got a problem, say with the ABS sensor, and you want to save 7 or 8 minutes of doing a full scan, you can go straight into it and go to that particular control unit. So if I go health report here, and I run that test, switch on the ignition, which it is, here you go, you can see that I don't have that topological feature on the X431. It's something that the other one visually I think is very, very pleasing. It really gives you an idea of where the control units are on the car, whether it's to do with the sound system, whether it's to do with the chassis, whether it's to do with the pneumatics. But most diagnostic tools don't have that, to be fair, and Launch X431 is just going to run through it there, and you have to wait until it's completed and then work out where the faults are. So I'll see you in about 8 minutes. So here we go, it's come to the end of its report. And just like the Kingbolen, it puts all the faults at the top of the page. All the ones in green at the bottom here, they're the ones that are all good, clean bill of health. So at the top there, engine control module, you can see I've got 1 fault, and it's again talking about this left O2 sensor, which is actually a bit worrying because I had just replaced that sensor. And if you remember, I cleared all the faults. There was loads on with the Kingbolen. I cleared them all and it all went away, but it's come back again there now. So maybe the quality of the sensor perhaps, I'm not too sure, but nevertheless you can see how useful a diagnostic tool is. It doesn't just necessarily mean you're going to clear the faults, it really narrows it down to where you need to look, and then you do your homework and try and physically fix the hardware fault. Electronic stability program, I've got 4. Vehicle power supply control module, that's the BMS control module at the back. It says start battery fault, and that could be that the actual module has got a low battery because I've been playing around with the radio and my battery went low. So if I actually press the little G for the Google, there you go, just like the Kingbolen, it's going to go straight on the internet and it brings up videos, and you can then have a little look and see and try and work out the answer. Very nice. Okay, well, let's go into the engine control module and let's try and clear that O2 sensor again. So if I press enter there, switch on the ignition, which it is, you can see how similar it is actually to the Kingbolen. So likewise on the Kingbolen, you've got module information. That's going to be able to tell you exactly the model of the unit in question, its Bosch, what the part number is, even gives you year of manufacture. You've got special functions and actuation tests, setting changeover. So if I go to setting changeover, I can write the VIN here, which you can also do with the Kingbolen, by the way, but you can actually put the values in there. F2, read VIN. F3, you can enter a 17-digit VIN. So if you've got an issue, for example, I did one on a Range Rover where the speedo, I had to change it because the little buzzer wasn't going when you press the indicator. And I could have used this tool to actually change the old instrument cluster with the new instrument cluster and then copy the VIN number over. So that's an example where you would use that. Now just remember that all these menus that come up here aren't necessarily going to be working on every single control module you've got and every single car that you use it for. So for example, if I go into variant coding, you can see there that this particular function is not supported. So just now what I've just done there is one of the things that really bugs me about launch. I went back out of that menu thinking that I'm just coming out of that control module. I've actually come out the complete scan, which now means I've got to go back and do this scan all over again and waste another 8 minutes in doing that. And that for me is one of the real bugbears with launch. The Kingbolen, you don't seem to have that problem. So I'm going to have to do another 8-minute scan now. Right, well, I've done the scan again. God, that's annoying when that happens. I have to wait another 8 minutes to do the whole scan. Anyway, back into the ECM control module. If I read the fault code, this is what I should have done. You can see they've got a P2082-008. You've got a code search where you can go up on the internet. So I did clear it on the last time with the Kingbolen. I'm going to clear it again. So this is where I press back, and I actually ended up coming right back out the program, and I didn't want to do that. You've also got a report function, so that will then provide the whole PDF report. You can then send it to the customer exactly the same way, put all the details in. So I'm going to just press the return button there, and now I'm going to press clear fault codes. Oh, you want to clear the memory? Yes. Switch off ignition. You can see that this turn it off and turn it back on again after 10 seconds is exactly the same with the Kingbolen. Switch on ignition, and it says clear fault memory completed. So if I press OK, now let's go and try and read that fault code. There we go, no faults found. So it looks like it's a recurring fault, but it's cleared it at the moment. Let's go into SBC, Sensortronic Brake Control. Switch on ignition, and let's read the fault codes. Got no fault codes, which is good because I cleared the faults on the Kingbolen. So you can see that now it's staying away. It may have been down to a low voltage. So let's go into the BMS, which is the Vehicle Power Supply Control Module. This car's got 2 batteries. By the way, it's such a crucial item, that BMS. There is actually a video I've done on how to protect it with some fuses, because if that thing shorts, you can actually cause a fire in your car. Anyway, that's another video if you want to have a look at that. So let's read the fault codes. Here we go, a B1832, component G1 starter battery fault. Well, let's try and clear that, shall we? So let's go back and let's press clear fault code. You can see that certain menus, certain control units have slightly less or more menus depending on what it is. They're not all the same. Clear the fault code, press yes, switch off ignition, press OK. Turn it back on again. Clear fault memory completed. Right, so let's now go and read that fault code and see if she's gone. Yay! No more faults on that. Whew. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the seat menu. If you remember the Kingbolen, there was options to adjust the easy entry, how far the seat traveled backwards and forwards. Let's have a look at the special functions. So here we go, look. We've got the parameters of the easy entry. Very, very similar menu system, isn't it? Gives you the warning because you're sitting in the seat, remember that. Here we go. Adjust the end of the forward range, change the minimum distance of travel, adjust beginning or rearward. It's almost like for like. I think actually the menus are pretty much written with the same software. So you can see why these 2 diagnostic tools are quite a good comparison in terms of trying to decide which one you want to buy, because they are very similar. So there we go, I've gone into the vehicle speed threshold and you can see that it's still sitting at 10 kilometers an hour, which is what we set it with the Kingbolen. Central locking. If I press the F3 to activate it, central locking. So if you remember, the Kingbolen had quite a few auxiliaries that you could plug in, things like oscilloscopes and tyre pressure monitoring system devices. So if I go into other modules, let's see what this has. I think it's under Toolbox. Yep, here we go. We've got an S2 sensor, a multimeter, you've got oscilloscope function as well, and you've got a video scope. So very similar. In fact, I would say this has probably got a little bit more. But look at this, you've also got your key programmer there as well. And you've got remote functions, you can generate a transponder, you can read the transponder. Again, it will depend on the make of your car, but both can do key immobilizing and key coding if your car allows it. And lastly, then this could be the make or break. Once your 2 years are up, you're gonna have to think about, right, what am I gonna pay for my subscription costs? How many cars have I got? If I've got 1 or 2, then I need to pay for 1 or 2 cars. If I'm in a garage and I want all cars, then you're going to pay for the full whack. There we go, look, you can see to download the full 119 software configuration for the X431 as a subscription, it's going to cost you $73.52. It's going to cost you $73 a month. But let's say you've only got 1 car. Let's have a look what the lowest you can do. There you go, you've got 5 software updates. So say you've got a Mercedes, a Fiat, a Range Rover, a Toyota and a Volvo. Well, you can download those 5 cars and that's going to cost you £22 a month. Now the diagnostic tool will still work, but it won't update it automatically. So there we go. What do you think? You know, they're both very much like for like. Let's get straight into the comparison, shall we? Just to let you know that Kingbolen is actually authorized by launch. They do work very, very closely to one another. And that's why you'll find that there's similarity in the software between the two. So let's go straight into the pros and cons. For me, this is how I see it. Things that I don't like. Let's start with that, about this launch X431 Pro Elite. Well, straight off the back, one of my biggest bugbears of the launch and all the other launches that I've got is that I've done this so many times, is where you come back out of a menu. Let's say I was in the ABS menu and then you press what you think is the back button to go back to the page before. Sometimes it can pull you straight the way out your scan and then you've got to wait another 8 minutes or so to do a full scan, and that's really just a software issue. But nevertheless, it does kind of frustrate me a little bit. And I wish it was a little bit more black and white, that it told you that you are about to exit the program. Second point to note is that Bluetooth setup, you can step away from the vehicle. You can then look at it in comfort inside a garage or in your house, even if it's near enough to the vehicle, and then diagnose it. And it's got a little magnet on the back so you don't go losing it. As you've seen, the launch has a cable. It's a bit of a first world problem, but nevertheless, that's a plus point to the Kingbolen. The menus are perhaps actually a little bit more Android-like, and there's nothing wrong with Android. I've got Android myself, but it could be a little bit more professional, because sometimes you're going into it and you'll notice that there's things in there like airplane mode. Moving on to the Kingbolen, it's got a larger screen for a start. This has got a 10-inch screen. The launch has got an 8-inch screen. The menu system seems a little bit more thought about and professional. Another key benefit with the Kingbolen, and this is one of its claims to fame, that it's got the topology set up. Personally, I really like that. So the radio system, the sound system, shows you all the different control modules along the way. As you can see, when I was running through the Launch X431 Pro Elite, you had to wait for the whole scan to go and then kind of think to yourself, right, where is the control module that I'm looking for? The Kingbolen takes that guesswork out of it. Both of the diagnostic tools have got the ability to have things like video scopes and oscilloscopes. In fact, actually, I think the Launch has more options than the Kingbolen. Let's have a little talk about costs and price now. The Launch X431, when I had a look, was around about £460. Kingbolen, you're going to double that. But then again, you're getting, I think, a better unit. It does as many cars as each other, but it has a more professional setup. This is much more based towards a garage. The Launch X431, by the way, equally so, you could easily use that in a garage as well as a professional setup. But I think just with the slightly larger screen, it actually really does feel like you're getting huge value for money. Imagine that. Imagine having a garage and you can bring any car into the workshop knowing that you've got a tool that's going to be able to look at it and diagnose it with bi-directional ability. And as well as the cost of the unit, let's talk about what you get in terms of how long before you need to pay for your subscription. Both of them, you get 2 years free updates. Warranty wise, you get 5 years warranty with the Launch X431, and the Kingbolen you get 3 years warranty. Once those 2 years are up, you then think to yourself, right, I need to now decide which subscription costs I'm going to use. For the Kingbolen, I can buy what they call an upgrade card. On their website, you can see that for 1 year renewal update for the Kingbolen K10 Pro, it's going to cost you £359. For the Launch X43 Pro Elite, you can pick and choose how many cars you've got, how many bits of software you want to download, and you can bring that cost down. And I think the cheapest that you could do was around about 20 or so something dollars. And this is where it really comes down to now what you want to use the diagnostic tool for. If you've only got one car and you think to yourself, after 2 years, if I've now got to pay $359 to renew the software for that one car, you can think to yourself, maybe that's getting a little bit expensive and maybe it's not worth that money. If you've got a garage and you're having cars in every day and lots of different models and you want to cover everything, then it's great value for money. But if you're the sort of person that actually has, maybe if you're lucky enough to have 2 cars, maybe 3, or you've got friends, family, neighbors that you want to try and help out. Cars are so sophisticated these days. I've always said this, it's like they are literally like computers on wheels. And if you've got a Kingbolen K10, you're going to be able to diagnose every single car out there. That's 10,000 plus cars, 160 plus brands, but it is going to cost you to buy it initially because it's double the cost of what the Launch is. But if you've only got one car, then maybe that is the better option for you because you're kind of spending money that you don't really need. So I'm going to leave you with this. Going back to my statement at the beginning of the video, is how proficient are you? How much do you enjoy looking at diagnostics on cars and actually wanting to understand what the issues are? How many cars have you got? Are you in a situation where you might want to help your friends and family and neighbors? In which case, go with the Kingbolen K10 Pro, because you probably find that once you've got that, you're going to see so many more things that you never even thought you could do. I've not even touched the surface with both of these and the abilities of what they can do in the car diagnostic world. But if you're on a little bit of a budget and you've only got the one car, I'd recommend the Launch X431 Pro Elite. But the bottom line is this. The whole reason I do my channel is to give people some confidence, get them to save money. It will cost you to 60 to 80 pounds to go down the garage and get a diagnostic done. Now I've been talking about the cost of the Pro Elite, for example, is around about 360 pounds. And remember that both of these, they'll still work after your 2-year free upgrade, but you just won't get the updates automatically, that's all. So look, I really hope this helps you. My name's Groovon. I've got loads of videos on diagnostics and I do all sorts of reviews and comparisons like I am today. And I hope in some way this has maybe answered a couple of your questions of which one to buy. I appreciate you watching and I'll see you on the next one. And if you're interested in this sort of thing, there's a nice playlist at the end. Bye for now.